Welcome to the last unit. At this point in the course, it's time to look wider. It's all too easy to be overwhelmed with what's going on in our more immediate surroundings, whether that's our school, division, or province. That can leave us stuck in a reactive mindset rather than a proactive one, but we do a disservice to everyone involved when that happens. What ideas could be out there for technology and leadership that could inspire us or guide us? Conversely, what cautionary tales do we need to know so we can prepare for the possibilities? The volume of information at this level is overwhelming, so please note that some of the readings you're required to read, some you're encouraged to skim, and some are provided as options. For this unit, our metaphor is planning a trip. Makes sense, right, when talking about the world? So the first thing when planning a trip is that it's good to know where you're going. It seems pretty obvious, right? So you need to know something about your destination. Where is it? Trust me, you want to make sure you aren't traveling to London, Ontario if you meant to go to London, England. How far away is it? It's very different planning a trip that involves a flight across an ocean as opposed to a trip that's just a few hours away. What languages are spoken there, and do you speak any of them? What's the weather like? If you can't figure out why this is important, you are either a master packer and are prepared for all eventualities, or you never planned your clothing wrong for a trip. Are there health risks, or do you need any shots? What are the big attractions? If you're going to a resort or hotel, is it brand new? Is it a good one? Is it older and might have some quirks like shared bathrooms or 6 flights of small stairs? It's all about preparation. Okay, yes. Sometimes you can go on a road trip and have no idea where you're going, but when we're talking worldwide, we're talking far enough that you really should plan for it, at least a little bit. We are not going on a mystery adventure. That means it's research time. I'm aware this is less exciting for some of you, but if you're the type of person who hops in a vehicle and lets the wind determine where you're going, you get to take a trip to the Planners United way of living for a little bit. Here's an example from EdTech. Los Angeles tried buying iPads for every student in the K-12 system in the entire city. It matters a whole lot that this is Los Angeles, and there's near Silicon Valley. There are cultural and political things at work. There was a deal with Apple, which is based out of California, and all of that is important to know if you want to go visit that story, which we are doing, so it's one of your readings. Also, you need to know where you're coming from. What's different? Are there customs that are normal where you're from that aren't normal there? For example, does the peace sign mean the same thing? There are parts of the world where holding up 2 fingers spread wide does not, I repeat, does not mean peace. Are there phrases that differ? Think talking about pants in North America versus pants in the UK. Very, very different. So back to these iPads. Having Apple make a special deal for iPads is not too likely in Saskatchewan. There's more partnership of EdTech and politics in the US, especially so near Silicon Valley, especially where children of Silicon Valley employees could be going to school. That is not the culture here in Saskatchewan. Okay, what's next? Well, you need to know who you're going on that trip with. You might have to compromise if you're going with someone who has different interests. Or you might be with an expert who can advise you well about where to go or what to do. You definitely want to take advantage of that. Does anyone speak the language? That could make it way easier, but only if you know about it. How many people do you have to plan for? A trip for 1 is vastly different than a trip for 50. What about ages or abilities? Do you need to make any accommodations based on that? You may have to ask different questions when planning to go ziplining if someone in your group uses a wheelchair. Likewise, you may not want to plan a lengthy lecture or solemn religious service if you have a small and active child alone, let alone 10 of them. Are you traveling with someone of an ethnicity who might be subject to additional racism? Are there legal issues around homosexuality where you're going that could be an issue for someone you travel with? Are you traveling with someone who's politically outspoken and going to a country where that could be a huge problem? So back to the iPads. It looks like the planners at Los Angeles schools didn't quite think through all the issues of who is coming on the trip. They didn't consider that students could hack the security. They didn't think through proper rollout and professional development. They didn't plan for the people on the trip. I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but the reality is that I can't give you answers. but I can suggest questions you can ask to work on coming up with your own answers. One important question is that of when. When are you going on your trip? This seems like an obvious question, but let's look at what ties into that. Is it for a particular event? Is it flexible? Hotels and airlines ask that question all the time when you book. Maybe you can wait an extra day to get a better rate, but maybe you're going for a huge sporting event, and if you don't book early enough, you are going to be out of luck for somewhere to stay. Or maybe it's the worst or the best time of year to travel to that place. Is there currently political unrest that makes it unsafe? The iPad initiative came at a time when Apple was pushing hard to get into education. But it also came at a time when students had tons of access to knowledge on the internet. And it started in 2013 and just ended in 2016. Again, it's all about timing. An important issue that is coming more and more to the forefront is the impact of travel. This could be ecotourism, looking to support preservation. Maybe it's about looking at your carbon footprint. Maybe you're considering the social impact of tourism in an area. What are your impact on the people who do the traveling? What are you exposed to that could be life-changing, positively or negatively? What do you think the impact of all those iPads would be? Of the deals that were made? Of the court cases that followed? How about on the students, the teachers? I somehow don't see that kind of deal happening again anytime soon. So that's a whirlwind introduction to planning a trip and some of the questions it raises that can then be translated to EdTech. So for that translation, read on to get into a fuller view of how you plan a trip with EdTech.